Hi there guys, it's Mike from MCQBushcraft here, and welcome to episode 6 of Bushcraft Basics. In last week's episode we had a look at land access in Northern Ireland, and that really concluded our final episode of land access here in the British Isles. And hopefully, if you've watched those episodes, it's given you a good idea of what you can and can't do, and also some of the wider spaces you can explore here in the British Isles. But in this week's episode we're going to be having a look at equipment, and really from this episode onwards we're going to start to look at different types of equipment and really try and build a reliable, functional set of tools that you can use alongside certain skills out in the field and practice those skills. And I've brought with me today a whole range of backpacks to show you. I'm going to give you some pros and cons on them, and I've also brought my pack with me as well. I always carry my pack on me. I'm going to show you that one as well and talk about the pros and cons of it also. Choosing a pack right at the beginning stages is quite an important thing, and it affects so much later down the line that you may not even realise. If you're new to bushcraft and you're purchasing a pack for the first time, you may not have that ground knowledge yet of the kind of equipment that will be going inside that pack later down the line, and I call it future proofing. You buy the right pack and you've future proofed yourself for whatever equipment you choose to take out in the field, for whatever weather, and even going abroad to different countries. You may start to do that later down the line, you never know. I think the biggest thing, or the most bulkiest thing, are sleeping bags, sleep systems, covers, hammocks, tarps, all these things, and spare clothing, which I encompass as part of a sleep system sometimes, can all amount to quite a large, bulky mass that needs to fit into that pack. And if you buy a backpack that's very slim, you will be limiting yourself on sleeping bags almost immediately. And if there's nowhere outside of the pack to strap a sleeping bag, then immediately you've got a problem there, because say you want to go out in the winter, you want to take your Arctic sleeping bag or a very warm full-season sleeping bag. You can only afford a synthetic one because you can't afford hundreds of pounds for a down one. And that sleeping bag will only go in that pack upright like this and not sit flat at the base. You've lost tons of space in that pack. So buying the right pack at day one is really like setting the foundations for building your equipment. It really is that important. And if you can try packs on before you buy them, that's another thing I would advise as well. Trying them on before you buy. It's like boots in a respect. Sometimes you can wear boots that other people love, and when you wear them they're terrible and they just don't work for you. So if you can try a pack on, I would strongly advise it. But let's have a look at some of these packs I've got with me, and these are some fairly popular packs, and we'll go through some pros and cons and have a look at how they're built. This first backpack I want to show you is the Karrimor SF Sabre 45. It's a very good backpack and probably quite a popular one in bushcraft. A lot of people own them and use them. I think it's a very good pack, and Karrimor SF themselves produce equipment for the military. Karrimor do have a civilian branch that produce inferior equipment, but Karrimor SF produce some fantastic gear. It's very robust, good materials, YKK zips, which are about the best you can get, very good buckles and webbing, all nice tight weaves, and overall it's a good quality bit of equipment made out of 1000 denier Cordura. So it's all round quite robust, and it will last a long time. The material itself is also treated for water resistance and abrasion, so it should look new for a very long time and not pick up too much wear, no matter how rough you treat it. If we look at the back of the pack, it's usually the first place I look when I'm choosing a backpack. And it's normally just around here at the lower back that I check out straight away when I take a pack off the shelf or I'm looking at images. I usually like to see a bit of a bulge there at the lower back, so it cups in to the base of my spine and provides me with some good lower back support and some comfort. But on here we don't have that. You can see we've got a lot of cushioning there with some good cell foam in there, nice and soft, and we have this mesh which allows a bit of breathability in these runs here, which can allow air to travel. Obviously if you're wearing bulky equipment, this is null and void. It's not going to do anything, because if you've got thick clothes on, it's really just going to act as more insulation and fill all these gaps up, and it won't really breathe at all. But in the summer, If you're just wearing a t-shirt like I've got on, or a thin wicker layer, it really does allow a bit of breathability, although you can end up with a bit of a sweaty back with a back plate like that there. But inside we have an internal frame, and I'll just show you it. And it's a piece of hard cell foam. It's got a bit of squidginess to it, but overall it's pretty rock hard. It's also worth noting that this can be shaped to your back, as they state on the Karrimor SF website, although the details on how to do that I'm not entirely sure. I'd imagine it would involve hot water. And you can see the internal pocket there where the back plate slips into, and a bit of Velcro fastens it in, just like that. You can see that this isn't adjustable at all in terms of the height of the waist or length of the body. I've heard reports of people being 5'9" and saying this is incredibly comfortable. I'm 5'10", it fits me perfectly and I find it very comfortable. I also have friends that are 6'3" and they say it fits them absolutely perfectly. And it really depends on the shape of your body and the length of your body, and really what I'd advise is that you try it on first and put a bit of weight in it. See whether you can try one out, see whether there's someone you know that has one. It's an incredibly comfortable pack, I will admit. I've been very impressed with it when I've put it on and had a lot of kit in it. As I say, I'm about 5'10" and it works for me perfectly. And I do know guys that are a lot taller than me that also swear by it too. So it really does depend on what you're looking for in a pack and what sort of shaped body you have. I mean, Karrimor SF do larger packs than this, and when you go up to their 60 to 100 range, then you're talking about adjustable waistbands that can move up and down, adjustable straps, and you can really tailor the back of the pack to fit you. So if you're uncertain and you're maybe ordering from abroad in America, I'd probably advise to go to the 60-100 range, simply because that way you can adjust the back to fit you perfectly, and you're not taking any chances spending just a little bit more money on a slightly bigger pack. The waistbands here are non-removable and they're fixed to the pack. They can be tucked around the back of the pack if you don't wish to use them, but I would rarely use it without them, to be quite honest, if ever. And they're very comfortable. We've got a lot of padding, they're nice and wide, and they wrap around the body quite well. If you're quite large waisted, they may not be long enough for you, but to be quite honest, I think they're perfect, and any bigger and they'd actually be too big really. And they're quite comfortable. You can see we've got a bit of rope on there as well, so you could put an axe through or other bits of equipment just on your side while you were walking along. And they are adjustable with some tight weave and a bit of elastic just there, so you can tuck the strap away and it's not flapping all over the place. If we come to the top of the back of the pack, you can see we've got a grab handle there, which is quite nice for hanging your pack on a tree when you're camping out. This pack doesn't stand up very well, it falls over even when fully loaded. I like packs to stand up, but it's only really a very minor thing. But this grab handle allows you to hang it up, which can be very useful for accessing your gear and not getting it on the ground if it's muddy or damp. But we've got some really substantial shoulder straps. These are fantastic. This is really one of the first things I noticed when I turned the pack around. Really thick, well padded shoulder straps with the mesh on as well, although again the breathability is questionable. And it does add some durability to it though. You've got quite a lot of webbing there as well, so you can hang gear on it like grimlocks and such. You might be able to put all kinds of equipment on there. And you've got a sternum strap, and that sternum strap can obviously be taken off and adjusted to at any point really to make it comfortable for you. And these straps are adjustable as well, so if we tighten this up it will bring the pack much closer to the top of your back, whereas if you loosen them it'll bring some distance and slack it off a little bit. So if you've got a heavy load and you want to bring it quite linear to your centre of gravity, you can really tighten these up and bring it into your back a bit more, which I found quite useful. They make a slight difference anyway. Moving to the side of the pack, you can see we've got a nice big open space there, and there is method behind that. We've got these YKK zippers running all the way up each side. Those can actually be zipped together, and you can make this pack really small. Too small really for a lot of uses, but for example for storage it can be quite useful, or if you're just hiking with a very light load, perhaps just a water bladder when you're just on the trail with a little bit of food, zipping it up can stop it flapping around everywhere and close off the space a little bit more. So those YKK zippers are useful for that, but they also allow a side pouch to be attached, and I've got 2 of these side pouches here with me today. These are the PLC side pouches, 12 litres, and there's lots of additional side packs that you can put onto these Karrimor backpacks. This is probably the smallest backpack where they fit flush. If you go to the 35 litre version of the Karrimor SF, then you've got overhang at the bottom where the pack is too short and part of the pouch hangs over the side. But with the 45 they fit beautifully on the side, and you can also get ammunition pouches and other utility pouches as well. But these zip on, and you can see we have little buckles just here as well that clip onto the top and clip onto the bottom just to keep it really secure. So you can actually expand the 45 litre pack with 2 of these, which can be bought as 2, they come in a pair, and that gives you an additional 25 litres on top of the pack, which really will help future-proof it. And you can put quite a lot of food in these and extra equipment as well, like bedding and clothing. On the other side, it's exactly the same. We do have compression straps either side as well, so you can compress the pack up a bit if you don't want things rattling around, or you're just zipping it up for a day and you don't have much equipment in it. And each strap comes with a strap tidy as well, so you can actually organise the strap away so it's not flapping around everywhere, but you can use just duct tape or insulation tape to organise your straps if you've got them set to a certain length. If we look at the bottom of the pack, you can see that it's fairly bare. There's nothing really there in terms of excess straps or molle to attach excess gear to. If it was my pack, I probably would stitch on something or attach some more straps there so I could put a bigger sleep system there, or even a dry bag with some extra camp gear in. But the side packs will obviously help you with that if you do need extra space. But it's a fairly plain bum on the actual pack there, and there's nothing there, and these loops here are actually a part of the main strap that holds the lid on. So if there was enough slack, you could open these up a bit and actually put something in there and tighten it up, but it wouldn't be anything substantial, maybe a sleep mat inside a dry bag. If we look at the front of the pack, you can see that we've got some molle just down here, and we have some bungees, and more bungees can be added. You can put anything you want on here and clip on any kind of gear, like carabiners or grimlocks to hold extra equipment, and these bungees can help out. And I've seen quite a few guys do this where they'll take an axe, for example. They thread the axe through one of these bottom loops just like this, twist it the other way around, and then wrap it around using this bungee system here to secure their axe to the outer of the pack. And you can do that with quite a lot of different pieces of equipment, including shovels, fishing kits, all sorts of things. So it does allow you to connect things to the outer of the pack if they're taking up room on the inside. But this pack's so long that I would probably be quite happy with putting my axe inside and keeping out of the weather. At the top of the pack we have a number of different features. We have a drawstring on the inner baffle just here so you can really close it up. We have a compression strap that attaches to a buckle just at the top of the lid there, so you can bring the face of the pack closer to the rear, which is quite nice. We have a very large inner baffle just here that can really be done up and stop any rain getting in, which again is pretty useful. So it can almost be overfilled in some respects, and the lid itself is very useful. It's elasticated so it can literally fasten quite tightly around the pack itself, and you can get the straps at the base and obviously connect those on, and they can be adjusted to any length really, and they can actually be over adjusted so the pack is too full in some respects. So it gives you a little bit of leeway to play around with space, and if you are packing a little bit on the heavy side you can get away with it. The lid itself features some bungees and a toggle at the top, so you might be able to strap a jacket there. Perhaps you've been hiking and it's been raining and you have a raincoat and you want to strap it to the outside to dry off. You don't want it in your pack with the rest of your gear while it's wet, so that could be pretty useful. At the back we have a zipper that opens up with a decent rain flap to stop moisture getting in, and inside there quite a large pocket that forms the head of the actual pack, and that might be pretty good for a med kit. If you need to be able to access something quickly, you could put a big med kit in there, even some spare clothes, a hat, gloves. It can take quite a lot of space. And on the inside of the actual lid we have a mesh pocket just there as well. So some easy access items can be right at the top in the lid, which I think is pretty useful. If we actually get into the pack itself, you can see it's quite a long, narrow pack that tapers out toward the top. So it's narrower at the top than it is at the base, and I think that's good as well, because obviously your sleep systems will be wider at the base. But you can pack this out pretty good. Quite a lot of space there. And it's really a bucket pack, so there's very little compartmentalisation. It's just a bucket pack. We do have an inner pocket for the plates, which I've shown you, and there's a typical water bladder nest to go in there as well, so a water bladder can go in there, and I think that's probably a good option as well. You always want that on a pack, because the option of a water bladder really allows you to hike long distances and not have to stop all the time and get a canteen out your pack, or carry one on your hip, which can weigh you down on one side if you're carrying a lot of water. So it keeps it close to your back, that heavy weight close to your back, and doesn't affect your balance. So it's very, very useful. But a bucket pack, so you really have to organise yourself with a pack like this and think about how you're putting your items in the pack. What goes first, what do you need first, and utilising the top pockets to access easy access items that you may want to get out quickly or at night, so you don't have to fumble around inside your pack. If we put the pack on, we can have a little look at what it's like. Very comfortable, very comfortable. A lot of the weight is sitting on my hips, which it should be. I haven't got too much in there at the moment. Just some clothing, just to weigh it in a bit. That's really comfortable. So, you know, an axe could go there, for example. If you're on the trail and you really needed to carry an axe by your side all the time. But I can see that if you're very tall and you have quite a long torso, you're going to need to adjust this slightly, which may be tricky, so you probably want to loosen those to drop it down further down your body, so the weight's sitting on your hips, which may affect the comfort. So if you're particularly tall, this might not be a very comfortable pack. But as I say, I've got friends who are 6'3", say it's fantastic, and myself and other people who are about 5'9", 5'10", would think it's wonderful as well that it fits. And I can say that it fits very well, and I could carry that for a very long distance and be very comfortable. So it's good. It's not interfering too much with the belt kit. And I've got the side pouches on. You can see the PLC side pouches. So it's putting a lot of literage on there. But let's have a look at some pros and cons, or talk about some pros and cons on this pack. So I've just had to move location because the flies were just absolutely everywhere where I just was, and I was in the shade as well, which wasn't too good. Very damp area. So I've just put some cramp ball fungi into some moss. Just creates a bit of smoke in the area, and it really helps to get rid of the flies so they're not all over me. I'll leave this here. So we've just had a look at the Karrimor SF Sabre 45. A very good pack for the money. Retails for about £100, and the PLC side pouches you can get for about 40, so you're looking at about 150 quid for that setup. So it's by no means a budget option. Really depends what your budget is, obviously, but for most people it's not a budget option. It's more of a high-end pack, and there are some very good positives to it. For example, if you get the side pouches, they can mount on a yoke system and come off of the pack So if you wanted to leave a camp area and leave your big 45 litre pack behind, you can just take the side pouches mounted on a strap system, and then you've got a 25 litre day pack to do some exploring with, to carry some essentials, food and water. So that's a pretty good positive for that setup that I've got behind me. Obviously the pack doesn't come with the PLC side pouches, but for an extra £40 obviously you've got a much more versatile setup that's probably a bit more geared out for going abroad as well. So if you were going to go to Scandinavia or another part of the world and you need that extra space for items that you're taking with you, again the side pouches will give you that versatility. For the price you're getting a very robust pack. The stitching, the materials, it's going to last a very long time. It's made for the military, so it's going to be of a pretty good standard, and it's a very comfortable pack as well, and it's suited to most people. I won't say everybody obviously, because that would be unrealistic, but a range of people in different lengths and body shapes it will fit fairly comfortably, so it will cover a broad range of the spectrum really for average sized people out there. And it's gonna pack quite a lot of equipment in it. At 45 litres you can get quite a bit in it. I would say that one of the negatives of it is the lack of straps on the bottom. For me personally, I would say that I would like to see the pack slightly wider and a little bit shorter, so it could take sleep systems or bigger sleep systems at the bottom a bit easier. I think that if you feel the cold, I certainly feel the cold, and I'm generally in a bag that's a lot warmer than people who are around me, and I take a fairly hefty bag sometimes in the winter, then you know, you might want a little bit of space in that pack, and to be able to strap things on the outside in a dry bag can often keep a pack very small as a day pack, but then allows you to add extra expansion to it without too much baggage and extra material hanging around all the time. So that is one advantage of a smaller pack with straps on the outside, is that it's good as a day pack, but it has that extra space or storage on the outside for bedding and bulky items like sleep systems, and it still functions quite well as a day pack. So again, you'd have to weigh that up really, and it depends really what you want to go for. I prefer a smaller pack with straps on the outside, but I really think that's just down to personal preference, and just from my personal experience I operate with just one pack, and it can do everything I want it to, because it has that storage capability on the outside for sleep systems and bulkier items to be strapped on in dry bags if need be, and then it's still the size of a day pack when I want it to be. So that's just the way I prefer to operate. For me personally, the Sabre 45 isn't really the pack for me. It just doesn't have all of the features that I'm looking for, and I like to modify things a lot to my needs, and it's not a pack that's easily modifiable in that respect. But it's a very good pack, and if you were just looking to buy something off the shelf and for it to be really useful and very multifunctional straight away, then you've got a great pack that's future-proofed and you don't need to really do anything to it. But let's have a look at some others. For those of you who've been watching the channel for some time and tune into the regular content, a lot of the historical videos on the channel you'd have seen this pack feature quite frequently, and I used this pack for about 4 years. It's my main bushcraft pack. A very small, roughly around 25 litre pack, and it's a tiny little thing, but a very robust pack. It's a Maxpedition Condor II, although I have made some changes to it, and I've done some extensive reviews about this pack on my channel, and you will find in the description below this video the video I'm talking about where I do a review of this, show it in its setup when it was in all its glory, when I used it as my main pack. And I also discuss some of the changes I've made to it, like this front flap for example, which doesn't actually come with the pack but something I've just added on. And I still obviously own this pack and use it. It's a day pack that sits in the boot of the 4x4 with some spare gear in, so it's still alive and well, but just not used quite as much as it used to be, where it featured in almost every video, and I dragged it out on so many ventures I can hardly remember. But a really reliable pack, and the only disadvantage with it is its size, but in a respect that can be an advantage, because what happens with a big pack is you can fill it full of useless rubbish that you don't need, and especially when you're walking out the door at the last minute you start panicking and this switch in your brain flips, you start putting extra food in, extra kit, And a pack like this really makes you disciplined, and it makes you use a lot of the resources around you quite a bit more. Think about your environment, and items that qualify to go in the pack really have to do a multitude of jobs. So a pack like this can be quite useful, especially if you're starting out, but probably not the best way to start out, but another avenue nonetheless. So the Maxpedition Condor II is a pretty good pack. They do a range of packs. Maxpedition, I've owned the Xantha pack. There's really not much more capacity in it than this, and the side pouches for water containers and such are quite unusable when the pack's full, so I didn't rate that pack. It was comfortable, very comfortable, but I didn't rate it at all really for me going out and practicing bushcraft. They do the Vulture as well, or Vulture 2, which is a much bigger pack. I think that's probably about 32 to 35 litres. And I'd say if you're going to get a Maxpedition backpack, I would probably suggest that one because of its extra volume. But again, the back is almost exactly the same as this, so for long hikes you will have a soaking wet back, and I wouldn't advise cotton t-shirts with them, especially at altitude. So it's an okay pack, it's robust, but really it's suited as a day pack unless you're going super minimal, but a good pack. This pack here is an Irish patrol pack, and it's really just something I've brought along with me as an example to show you that wherever you live in the world there will be cheap ex-surplus gear going out there all over the place. Online stores like eBay or surplus stores, if you go in them you could pick up a pack the same day with just a few notes that you had in your pocket. Some stuff is so cheap you wouldn't believe it. So if you're looking to get into bushcraft, then there's a whole range of gear out there that's ex-surplus and being made to military spec. It will generally be pretty robust and made to a fairly good standard. But if we look at this one here, this is the Irish Patrol pack. You can see we've got side pouches with molle on, so you could even configure other things onto them. We've got another one this side, they're permanently stitched on. We've got molle on the front, so you might be able to configure something across the front there. We have a top pocket here, so you could even put a med kit in there, or even have your med kit molled onto the side or the front. We've got molle just here and here, you can have straps fitted to it. Even molle on the bottom, so you could fit a bigger sleep system there if you really wanted to. So for a pack that's incredibly cheap, you can get a lot for your money. It's even got a waist belt. That's not going to give you too much lower back support, but it will stabilise the pack and stop it rocking around and just provide you with a bit more comfort. And the back is relatively plain. It looks almost just like the Condor II we had a look at a minute ago. So you're going to get a sweaty back if you're carrying this for a long time. But for a budget pack, it's not too bad at all. It's going to be robust. We've got a huge veil at the top there, drawstrings. We've got no water bladder nest in there, but it's got a lot of space. You could fit a pretty good sleeping bag in there and go out for quite a long time with a lot of food. And this is going to be more practical than the Maxpedition packs we've just had a look at. Probably more practical than a lot of the Maxpedition packs that are out there because of its extra volume and its cost. So the initial stages of buying a pack, this could be something worth looking at. Just ex-surplus gear, and there's loads of it around whichever country you're in. The only thing I'd say is a downside to it is the camouflage pattern. I don't like wearing camouflage, and I've always adopted a bit of a grey man kind of appearance where I like to blend in and I don't like to be noticed too much when I'm out. And camouflage can give off the wrong impression. It sounds silly, but it really does. A lot of people look at you, and if you're completely clad in camo, like multicam or something, they'll be like, who on earth's that guy? Look at Rambo over there. And you can get, a few silly comments and such, and people are kind of then suspicious of you. So I prefer plainer colours and traditional gear that looks like hiking kit, simply because you can blend in a little bit more. But loads of surplus gear around like this, and definitely an option out there if you don't have a lot of money and you're looking for decent quality kit. I brought this pack with me. I thought it looked quite nice, and upon closer inspection I don't really like it very much. It's one that looks good on the shelf and you pick it up, and then you get it home and you start looking at it closely and you realise that it isn't really what you thought it was. It looks like a Fjällräven pack almost, and it's a nice colour. You've got some nice browns and you've got a lovely green colour there that really blends in. Got some decent padding on the back, although it's a bit floppy and could do with some kind of frame to stabilise it on the inside like foam, and then that air gap would be more useful. a waterproof bum that actually absorbs water, although the nylon material runs right the way through, so it shouldn't get through, but it just stays soggy for a long time. But it doesn't look too bad on face value, but the reality is that it's probably not a great pack in some respects for future proofing. It has no real compartments to attach extra stuff like molle and side pouches, and it'll forever really be in the rankings of a day pack. And when you load it up very heavily, it will warp at the base here without any foam to strengthen it, and it will become a little bit uncomfortable, and it has no waist strap either, so there's only so much weight you can put in it before it reaches its limit. But it's just an example of the kind of pack that you can get out there. If you wanted something that looked fashionable and quite nice, then this is quite a nice looking pack in some respects. It was 25 quid, and my fiance bought it because she needed a pack, or just an additional pack to go alongside her other one, because she was going to do some charity work with some kids on the south coast and needed to take some extra kit for them, and she just got this from work in the sale. And it's, you know, it's an alright kind of pack really, if you look at it. But to be honest with you, I think if you're getting into bushcraft and you're looking for a pack, try not to look for fancy stuff like this that, you know, looks nice but isn't on the whole that great, because you can put your money into surplus gear which is far better and obviously made for purpose, or put your money towards something a bit better like this that you've then future-proofed for trips going abroad or long trips with mates, or going canoeing, all sorts of stuff that you may want to do. But this is just another pack I thought I'd show you. It's not too bad, but on the whole it's fairly standard. But I'll just show you my pack now, which is the one I use all the time. So this is my pack here, and it's a Swedish military pack, a frame pack, and it's called the LK35, or that's the abbreviated name they use for it over here in the British Isles. It actually has a slightly different name, but that's the name you will find it under, LK35. And it means literage of 35 litres. This one's about 39. They vary in essentially their size in the manufacturing process. You can have a few centimetres here and there extra, and mine's got to about 39 litres from what I've measured it to be. But regardless of that, it's the LK35, and this one's in a really nice condition. A really lovely pack. I'm very biased to this pack, obviously. It's my favourite one out of every one that I've shown you today. Even though some of those packs I've used for years and some I have experience with, this pack has been by far the best one I've used, and it ticks all the boxes. But it does come with its disadvantages, which we will discuss. But if you've watched the channel, you would have seen this pack in use fairly frequently, and in the description below there will be a link to a video where I've done a very extensive review of this pack and the changes I've made to it. So although I may not cover everything in this video, please see the description below if you want more information on this backpack. But let's have a look at it a bit closer. So if we look at the back of this pack, you can see it's incredibly basic. We've just got a steel frame which has been painted with a durable paint and topped off with some rubber caps on the end, and we just have a backpack mounted or lashed to that steel frame. And you can see that if I move the straps away, that's the back support there, that one strap. It comes as standard with two, but you have one at the bottom and one at the top. I've taken the one at the bottom off because I've made a modification where I've put a kidney belt in there, which drastically transforms the pack into something very comfortable, and probably one of the most comfortable packs I've worn, because that sits on your hips and all the weight is taken on your hips, and all these do is bring it close to your back to align with your centre of gravity, and it makes it very comfortable. This back plate here can be untied with some 550 cord, which is how it's held on, and it can be slid up and down, and you can even add a secondary one. A nice little modification I've seen, which is I think a real positive of this frame, is somebody mounted a mesh here, and it was just a mesh, and it provided more comfort but at the same time loads of breathability. And that's one huge plus of a frame like this with one lashing here, is you've got loads of air running down here, and you do not get a sweaty back. Even in the winter when you've got thick clothes on, and I've been hiking around, you know, you can keep your temperature levels in check, and it's a great plus. And this being the first summer that I've used this pack in, I've been really impressed. And one thing I notice the other day. I was on a really long hike, it was about 6 miles, carrying a lot of kit, very tired, and I thought, oh, my back's dry. How strange, you know, I'm not used to that. So it was quite pleasant really to find that out. But this kidney belt drastically transforms it, and you can get these kidney belts for $5 on eBay. This is a US kidney belt, and the pack itself you can get anywhere between 15 and 25 pounds. But the straps are a bit of a, you know, they're not great. I will be honest, I'm going to replace these straps one day. I'll keep the originals, but I will replace them. There's no padding whatsoever. It is literally just a nylon strap that pulls the pack against your back, and that is it. You can buy some Alice pack ones from the United States and strap them on, and that's the good thing really, because you've got this frame. You can pretty much do anything to it. So if you're into customizing gear, this frame is ideal. I mean, I've had a shotgun mounted on the side of this frame in like a bandolier almost. Or a sling, sorry. I've had a bandolier of ammunition on the side of it. I've had a fishing rod on the side of it. Arrows for a bow and arrow. Loads of kit can just mount on this frame. You can even make a grab strap, which I've seen somebody do at the top there, which will be something I do later down the line. So a frame will allow you to do a huge amount to it, and you can even take the pack off the frame and use the frame for carrying heavy loads like logs. So it's pretty versatile. But these straps, they're not comfortable. When you've got thin layering on and not a lot of padding, they can bite in. And really some Alice pack ones from the States, or some new straps, or even putting some foam on them would make them a lot better. So that is a bit of a disadvantage. So when you get it off the shelf, it won't have this waist belt. It will have 2 of these, and you really need to buy a waist belt and put it on. And if you want to know how to do that, see the video in the description below. As standard, the side of the pack doesn't come with a pouch. It's really a change that I made because I like to save as much of the inner compartment as I can for sleeping gear, clothing, bulky items like food. And this pouch really is just here to serve as a med kit, a hygiene kit. Also has a torch and spare batteries in on the outside of the pack, and it's all in a Ziploc bag so it doesn't get wet. They are waterproof, these pouches, from rain obviously, but at the same time you just don't want to take any chances. But right at the top, I've just got an emergency bandage. These things are so useful, these Israeli bandages. I've had to use one when having an accident once, but it's just good to have that right at the top because you don't want to be fishing it out of your kit trying to find it, which is a good plus for some of the top pockets on the Sabre 45 right at the top in that top lid. You know, you could have something similar in there as well. So the side of the pack is pretty plain, but you can put a pouch on the side if you want to. You can see I've done the same on the other side, and this is just a maintenance kit with some miscellaneous items in it that I may want to access without digging through my pack. The front of the pack is pretty plain. We've got a little fastening strap down here which coincides with a loop at the top where you're able to slide an axe or a shovel down and then strap it to the front of the pack. I generally keep my axe in the pack out of the weather, but when I've overfilled the inside of the compartment, it can be really useful to utilise that system. And if I just undo this, you can see that we've got the loop there. The axe just goes down and then straps in, and it's pretty useful. But the lid's quite nice as well. There are no pockets in the lid. It's just a flap lid that goes over the top, and it really helps keep the weather out. But the bottom of the pack is quite a nice feature. We've got the frame just here, and you can see that you've got this U style part at the base there, which actually helps the pack stand up a little bit better. And this is a nice feature about the pack, you can actually stand it up, but the pack has a phenomenal capacity to strap things to the bottom. You can really strap quite substantial things to the bottom of this pack, but you have to make sure you leave enough strappage just there to hold the lid on. So really you're talking about this much, so maybe a small sleeping bag or a sleep mat. I used to have my wool blanket on the bottom of here when I carried it in the winter. But you could even do something like strap an axe, and it could slot into that U-frame just there, and you could just keep your axe nice and secure and then take it out when you needed it. Or even a set of skis if you're doing some cross-country skiing. Earlier we talked about how small packs with the capacity to hold a lot on the outside can function as day packs, but as larger packs as well. And that's one thing that really sold me on the outside of this pack, is the capacity to put lots of things on the outside and make changes and strap things to the actual frame, which really helps take the weight. But I can fit my entire Arctic sleeping bag, my British Army Arctic sleeping bag, on the top of this, and because it's sitting at the top very close to my back above my head, I barely notice the weight, and it becomes very comfortable rather than having it dragging at the base of the pack where you can really feel it, and it does interrupt your steps sometimes. So having this at the top is amazing. It really is a selling point of the pack, and it can even be extended as well, and you can even add additional stuff to it because of the frame. But let's have a look inside. You can see at the lip we've got some nice webbing there, and webbing is really stitched almost everywhere on the pack to reinforce certain areas. It really is a pack built for purpose and incredibly robust, and there's a lot of them in circulation, even in the United States, all over the world, all over Europe. You can find these packs. And we've got a toggle system as well, and it's a wedge toggle that you pop out like that. Quite bulky, a little bit heavy, but it's robust and it works. But looking on the inside, you can see some of my kit in there that I carry day to day, and I'll show you that as well. But before we go on the inside, I've bought a pack liner for mine. Because I've stitched pouches on the outside, even though I've waxed the thread before I've stitched it, I may have compromised the water resilience of the material, because water can't get through this material. I've been out on day hikes with it and no water's got through. But just to have an internal sack like this can be very useful, and this internal sack actually doubles up as a wash basin for me as well, and you can hold water with it around a camp area if a river's very far away. But I've even got a piece of foam just here, and that's my pillow, but it also keeps the pack conforming to a certain shape and stops things pushing into it and malforming the actual material if I've got loads of sharp objects in, or I carry loads of logs in it, which I sometimes do, and it's quite useful for that. But you can see on the inside we've got quite a lot of space. Down the back, if I take away the lid of the sort of inner dry bag, I've got my rain jacket inside where a water bladder can be carried. And the reason I've got my rain jacket there is it's lightweight, but it just means that everything on the inside of the pack won't get wet if this does, and then I put it back in my pack. So it can just slide in there, and then I just put this flap down the back and tuck it away quite nicely, and everything can stay dry. But I suppose I've got some bits and bobs here. I've got some gloves, I've got a wool hat and a scarf, and it sits down that side here. In fact, I'll take it out. I've got a tarp in a dry bag, and that's my tarp system that I've shown in previous videos. I've got my cook kit just there, which is just in a stuff sack to stop it getting crap all over the inside of the pack. And I have some spare clothes, and this is a complete set of spare clothes. I generally only carry one set and whatever I'm wearing, and I rotate every 2 days, no matter how long I'm out, and just wash them, you know, with fresh water. And I always carry my axe on me, and that can just literally go down the inside there. I like keeping the axe close to my back because of weight. It can obviously go down the front here through these loops, but I prefer it here when I haven't got too much in there, just to obviously keep my centre of gravity. If we put the pack on, you can see that as a standard pack without the waist belt, it's going to really be on the shoulders. Very comfortable still, but all on the shoulders. And then if we use this waist belt here, and we just make sure it's in the centre of our back, you can suddenly see the weight being taken off my shoulders to the point where it pivots on the shoulder there. It can just be dragged in, and if those were a bit more padded, it wouldn't feel so restricting. One thing I generally do with packs, and it's something to bear in mind, is I always wear wicker layers with a high collar, because I don't like things digging into my neck. I find when I've been doing hiking, especially doing some mountain hiking or going on really long walks where you're carrying your pack for 8 hours a day, sometimes this moving all the time, wearing into your neck, can be a bit annoying. So having a high collar wicker layer can sometimes take away the fact that the pack might be slightly too narrow at this point. And if you're a big built chap, then you may have come across that problem. But it's a very comfortable pack. But there are some disadvantages to it, which I'll tell you about. I think one of the major disadvantages of that pack is its weight. It's got a steel frame, and even before anything goes in it, it can weigh quite a lot. But sometimes with robustness comes a bit of extra weight. And it really goes down to fitness as well. Your fitness is so important if you expect to carry all of this equipment comfortably. The backpack is a vessel that you carry your gear in, and you want it to be as comfortable and as useful as possible for you, but at the same time you need to carry it, and it won't carry itself no matter how comfortable it is. Obviously technology and different designs of packs can really help make the weight feel lighter by adjusting it and shifting it so it blends with your body more and it sits on your hips aligned with your centre of gravity. But there's still going to be a lot of kit in there. I mean, that pack empty is a lot heavier than my Maxpedition Condor II, and it's probably a bit heavier than this pack here, the Sabre 45. But I train with it almost every day in some respects. I carry almost all my gear around with me all the time on day hikes, when I'm out at work, and as a result I've gotten very used to it, and it's got to the point where I can just kind of do everything with it and not really worry about the weight now, which is a good thing. But when I go slack for a while and I don't carry it and I just carry little items out with me, I do notice it when I put it back on. But again, that's just part of fitness, and you know, it's nice to be able to train with the pack and carry that weight comfortably. But we've looked at a range of packs today. Some have been a generalisation, like this standard camping pack here, or X-Surplus kit that you can find all over the world in every country. And some have been more specific things, like the Sabre 45 or Sabre's products, which have quite a broad range of sizes. And you've got the LK35 that we've looked at quite specifically, and they come in a range of sizes as well. There's one up from this is a really big one, which is quite nice, and maybe pretty good for future proofing if you're going on long trips, or even going abroad, or you're in a really cold climate where you've got to carry a lot of kit. So your climate, your fitness, and what you're looking to do, whether you're a minimalist or you're looking for a large pack, really depends or will influence on the size of pack that you choose. So the rules of engagement may be that if you want a big pack like this, make sure that it can fit the kind of gear that you want all year round, or if you're going abroad as well. But if you want a pack like mine, which is a frame pack that can function as a day pack, make sure it has outside capacity to strap on other things and bigger sleep systems, so it can be used as a big pack as well, but also function like the larger frame packs for comfort. And that's an important rule I think you can remember. So there's a lot of things to weigh up, but I think if you're new to bushcraft and you don't have a lot of money, have a look at some old surplus gear. Even the LK35, it doesn't take much to modify it, and you can obviously check the description below if you want a detailed video on how to modify it. There's a lot of options out there, and I hope this video has provided some clarity. And hopefully you'll join me in next week's episode, where we'll be having a look at containers, water bottle containers, to go inside these packs, because obviously if you're carrying packs and you're going out and doing some exploring, you're going to want to carry water. But not only carry it, these containers need to be multifunctional to do a range of jobs. So I hope this video has been useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in next week's episode of Bushcraft Basics. Take care guys, thanks again.